Good afternoon. I hope that everybody has a good lunch. And welcome back to the Asia and the Pacific Regional Dialogue on Science Technology for Sustainable Food System, Session 3, Actions Toward More Sustainable Food Systems. The co-host of this event is between Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperatives and Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation of Thailand. We look at this event in order to identify what we can do toward the sustainable food system. This morning, we visit the blue economy. And there's some activities related to the session in the afternoon regarding food loss and food waste. As we are aware that all our production, all our consumption, almost 1/3 of that food loss or waste. So this afternoon, we have our distinguished speaker to share with us regarding this issue. We're very grateful and for your participation. We have to thank all the speakers with the short notice. Everybody say yes to us. On this session, we divided as in the morning. The first session is regarding some policy, the government, how the policy see it at the national, international, or relevant. And the second part is the case studies, how innovative technology and best practices that can be shared and learned together. On the first session, we have the honor of two speakers. The first one is Dr. Jean Buzby. She has worked with the U.S. Department of Agriculture for over 25 years and is the USDA Food Loss and Waste Liaison in the Office of Chief Economist. Prior to the position, she was on detail at U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Resource Conservation and Sustainability Division. For most of her career, she has worked at USDA's Economic Research Services, or ERS, first as agricultural economist and then as the chief of the Diet, Safety and Health Economics branch. She is domestically and internationally known for her estimates of food loss at the retail and consumer levels in the United States. Dr. Buzby received her PhD and MS in agricultural economics from the University of Kentucky. I think Dr. Jane is with us now. And may I have opportunity to greeting you, and the floor will be yours.
Thank you so much.
You will share your own presentation?
Yes.
Yes, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind introduction and the welcome to join this event. I really appreciate that. Let me go to, one moment. Here we go. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Again, thank you so much for inviting me to share information. I'm going to focus a little bit of introduction on food loss and waste in general. Then I'll talk about what the U.S. Department of Agriculture is doing, and then I will focus on policies in the United States that are associated with food loss and waste. So as was just mentioned, roughly 1/3 of all food that's produced is either lost or wasted globally, and the same is true for the United States. And this is coming at a great cost, over $900 billion each year. And it also has an impact on all those embedded inputs to create that food loss and waste. About 1/4 of the fresh water used by agriculture for crop production each year is associated with food loss and waste. There are also greenhouse gas emissions and linkages to global food loss and waste. In fact, about 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions from human activity are associated with food loss and waste. And by one study by Project Drawdown, reducing food waste was the top solution to reducing heat trapping gases and addressing climate change. And it can, by reducing food loss and waste, FLW for short, it can generate several benefits to society. It could be, if still wholesome, it could be used to help feed families in need. It can help consumers and businesses save money, or in some cases, make money. Again, the resources could be used for more productive uses. And then there's the greenhouse gas, including methane emissions issue. Their Sustainable Development Goal Target 12.3 calls for cutting global food waste at retail and consumer levels by 2030 in half, as well as reducing food losses earlier in the production and supply chains. And the US also has a national goal to cut food loss and waste in half by 2030, though we have, to be honest, according to ReFed, which is a national nonprofit, we have barely moved the needle, maybe only 2% on a per capita basis. Some countries have made more progress. The United Kingdom has been the leader. They were the first to cross the halfway threshold, over 25% reduction, but most countries have not made really significant inroads. One of the things that the United Kingdom did is that they had a consumer education campaign that was really effective. You may have all seen this food recovery hierarchy, which shows best approaches to reduce food loss and waste. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, but the very top purple tier is source reduction, and that's where it's best not to create it in the first place. But if you do have wholesome food, its next option is to get it to feed hungry people and then feed animals, and then there are industrial uses. Composting also can make a valuable soil amendments. The worst scenario is to landfill it or incinerate it without energy generation. In the United States, we do have a federal interagency collaboration to reduce food loss and waste with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. And each agency is doing its own individual activities, and we have joint activities as well, and we amplify each other's messages. Some of the things that the U.S. Department of Agriculture does is we do research, such as some of the drivers behind farm level food loss. Also, another part of USDA estimates food loss at the retail and consumer levels. We also do a lot of investing in innovation. We have two main agencies that do food loss and waste research. The Agricultural Research Service, that is where we have over 2,000 of our own scientists in 90 research centers. Of course, the bulk of that is not food loss and waste, but there are really cool innovations coming out of ARS. The other agency, which is doing the funding outside of USDA with partners from universities and private and nonprofit organizations and others, that is also a very significant amount of funding. And again, food loss and waste technologies, new products are also being produced out of that funding effort. I did want to mention also our Agriculture Research Service also develops new and hardier cultivars to like a keepsake strawberry, which has a longer shelf life and is still really flavorful. We also put out a lot of education and outreach materials trying to spread the word about food loss and waste, the importance of it, and how to prevent it. Here are just two materials for consumers, and our easy steps to prevent food waste is in English, Spanish, and Chinese so far. We also have a Food Keeper app, which helps consumers understand how to store food properly and how long it's safe to have. And that is available to all, both on different kinds of phones as well as on the laptop. More broadly, as a government, another important issue is date labeling, and the USDA and the Food and Drug Administration, they have oversight over food date labeling, and where we stand now is it's voluntary, and we've moved towards a best if used by phrase to convey quality dates. There's a lot of consumer confusion because there's so many different date labels that are used, best by, sell by, use by. So some perfectly wholesome food gets thrown out prematurely. And so that is one important way we can help, is to really clarify to consumers the meaning of these labels. There are also food donation laws in place to help make it easier to donate food. And there are also tax benefits available for different kinds of businesses for those who donate fit and wholesome food to qualified nonprofits. Another thing that we've had in place for quite a while, 1996, is the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act, which provides liability protection for those who donate food in good faith to qualified nonprofits. And we have materials to help people understand what is behind there. So this is the federal law. I mean, this is the federal level protection. Some states have higher levels of Food Donation Act regulations. I also want to mention this, that there is a strong business case for reducing food loss and waste. This is data from a World Resources Institute report that came out about 5 years ago, but it's really meaningful in the sense that it surveyed over 1,200 business sites across 17 countries. And long story short is that in 99% of the sites, they found a positive return on investments to reduce food loss and waste. And the median benefit cost ratio was 14-1. So for each dollar spent on a food loss and waste reduction, there was a $14 return. And which is really important to incentivize people or businesses to take up the challenge and make food loss and waste reductions in their own businesses. Public-private partnerships are really important in the U.S. USDA and the Environmental Protection Agency. We have a U.S. Food Loss and Waste 2030 champions, and many of these are big companies, but they don't have to be. They just are businesses who have made the public commitment to reduce food loss and waste in their own U.S. operations in half by 2030. And there's also Champions 12.3, which is more of an international coalition of executives from governments, businesses, and others trying to accelerate progress to that SDG target 12.3 I mentioned. I also wanted to share the news that the U.S. Department of Agriculture is having its second Food Loss and Waste Innovation Fair, and everyone interested in food loss and waste with an email is invited. It's free. And essentially on September 4th, there will be 4 live hours, and they will have 3 exhibit halls with, excuse me, dozens of virtual booths. We'll have presentations, and we'll have a networking lounge where people can interact. The virtual booths in the 3 exhibit halls will be the Food Loss and Waste 2030 champions, a subset of all of our champions. And then we'll have another exhibit hall on what each of our USDA agencies are doing in the food loss and waste space. And then the 3rd exhibit hall will actually highlight some of those cool innovations that have been funded by ARS and NIFA, the 2 research agencies I mentioned. as well as some of our composting and food waste reduction cooperative agreement awardees that have work underway. This is actually a big program that just got plussed up by the U.S. Department of Agriculture recently, where our secretary announced another $30 million over 3 years for this composting and food waste reduction cooperative agreements, which is really exciting. And just kind of some of the key takeaways is that both in the United States and globally, we have a long way to go to reach this very ambitious goal of cutting food loss and waste in half by 2030. And it's really complex, and it's going to take many different kinds of solutions from farm to table. And some of these solutions will likely include public-private partnerships and consumer education campaigns, but really it's going to include a whole lot more. And then another key message is everyone has a role to play in reducing food loss and waste, and USDA is actively helping prevent, reduce, and repurpose food loss and waste. And one other key message that I want to emphasize here is that uneaten food has value, and you want it to go to the next highest value. You can, as I mentioned earlier, you can turn it into animal feed, valuable compost, or you can create new valuable products from that. So I'm going to end there, and let's see. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. And I'm happy to answer questions when we get to that point.
Okay, thank you very much, Jean Buzby. I think it's something that people are aware of, but how to tackle it, how to take action. But you showed that how USDA working in the US, how to address the issue, how the action through by the regulation, through the coalition partnerships, as well as using the research and grant in order to make the action in place. And that's fascinating that we have the fair for food loss and waste, which is different thing that usually we go to the trade fair or other things or exhibition regarding, but this one is critical. One thing is, this is the first time I saw the number that half of the fresh water used in agriculture is associated with food loss. So I think when we look at the bio-based, which is we produce food, the circular activity, this is how we have to address to reduce the loss, to make the best use of all the resources, and the greenhouse gases not to mention, and just to waste the food. That's quite disappointing. Thank you for experience at the USDA in the United States. The second one, we would like to share the Thailand national actions on food waste measurement and reduction. It's from Anuda Tawatsin. She's the Environmentalist, Pollution Control Department, Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment of Thailand. She really expert and then participate in some of the FAO work, which is the multi-stakeholder virtual consultation for drafting regional strategy on food loss and waste reduction in Asia Pacific. So on this time, I would like to invite Kun Anuda. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here to join the dialogue today. May I please have help in putting up my presentation, please?
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Please.
Okay. So as was mentioned, I will be here to discuss a little bit about what Thailand is doing, specifically about our food waste management roadmap. Next, please. Just mentioning briefly, so Sustainable Development Goal 12.3 is calling for halving the capital global food waste at retail and consumer levels. And not only is food waste associated with SDG 12.3, has linkages to SDG 2 about zero hunger, SDG 11 about sustainable cities and communities related to waste management, and climate action. Okay, next, please. So this is an interesting study about cost of food waste, which is very pertinent to a global food crisis at the moment. So Thailand doesn't have a study on this yet. This is a very interesting possible future research on what would be the cost of food waste per household. So many uh, opinions from consumers are not very aware of what they're wasting. So this is another situation where we could have as a awareness raising. Next, please. Food waste is also part of Thailand's national strategy, BCG, which is bioeconomy, circular economy, and green economy. Next, please. And many people would wonder what is the linkage between food waste and climate change. We've heard a little bit already. Basically, just to reiterate, food waste, we use up lots of resources, whether energy or money or natural resources like water, as well as labor to produce the food, but yet we waste about 1/3 of the food, and that ends up in landfill mostly. And when the food is in the landfill, it is in a condition where the decomposing waste produced becomes methane, which is greenhouse gas. With greenhouse gas, that becomes a condition where the global warming and climate change causing all the different weather patterns, including droughts and floods, as we hear on the news. Next, please. So this is Thailand's situation with greenhouse gas inventory. Our waste is actually only 4% in comparison to the other sectors, but it is still significant, and we have included that in our NDC goals to reduce greenhouse gas. Next, please. So let's see what the situation of municipal solid waste in Thailand is at the moment. Last year there is 24 or almost 25 million tons of waste produced. The trend was always increasing, except during the COVID-19 situation, where we had less activities, including less tourism activities, so that the waste has reduced a little bit. Although we have found out that there's a lot more plastic waste than before, partly due to COVID-19. Next, please. So Thailand has had our latest national waste composition was like 15 years ago. So we had a new one in 2021. where we also included food waste as a separate category. We found out that about 39.76% is food waste, and that is the highest category in the waste composition, sorry, in municipal solid waste composition. Second is plastic. And within that food waste, about 39.5% is edible parts of the food waste, and inedible is 60.5%. Next, please. So using the UN Environment Program's Food Waste Index, we have considered the many different levels, and our food waste, our waste composition would answer the level 1, which is food waste in the waste stream. Level 2 requires the study of the food waste generation by the supply chain, which means that we need to go into what the retail food waste is, the food service sector is, and the consumer waste is. And that requires more studies. We are currently having a research done in Thailand, and the results would be done later on this year or early next year. So back to level 1, where we have a waste composition study. Our food waste is calculated to be about 9.68 million tons in 2021. So using the index, we have calculated that our food waste baseline is 146 kilograms per capita per year. And that compared to the global average of the study done by UN Environment Program in 2019 is 121 kilograms per capita per year. So we're just a little bit higher than that. So with SDG 12.3 in mind, we have set our target for 2030 to reduce our food waste down to 73 kilograms per capita per year. Next, please. Okay, so let's see what is happening in Thailand. So in the food retail sector, we have a leading supermarket, and several other supermarkets are following. A few convenience stores are following already in the food waste reduction. Several implementation measures include going back to the food producers and doing seasonal planning, trying to manage our ugly produce. It's still quite difficult where the standards are quite set, and consumer behavior is still used to normal supermarket looks of produce. So we need to have more explanation and knowledge given to consumers that produce are still the same nutritionally. Other measures include transportation improvements to reduce damage to the produce, setting targets within the company, price reduction for prepared food in the evenings. There's also food surplus sharing. And then there's composting for food waste that cannot be shared, as well as animal feed and public campaigns and outreach. Next, please. In the food service providers, I have provided examples from hotels in Thailand. Many start with policy, setting goals and targets, enter the Pledge at Food Waste program. They have staff training, then measure and monitoring their food waste. They do food surplus sharing, and then different creative use of food waste, and as well as customer and public outreach. Next, please. In canteens, different studies have been done to find out what the food waste per plate or per customer is, and it ranges from about 36 to 58 grams per customer. This is something that can be rolled out to different canteens in the country of how to measure and then monitor and try to reduce food waste. Next, please. Food surplus sharing, I've mentioned several programs. The Scholars of Sustenance Foundation, or SOS, is a leading a foundation operating in Bangkok, Phuket, Hua Hin, and Chiang Mai. So they match donors to the receivers, and they handle the logistics. So they go around to different hotels or supermarkets, collect all the food surplus, and then deliver to the those in need. They have, well, the number is a little bit outdated, but in 2021, they have donated about 2 million kilograms of food surplus already, or that equates to 8.7 million meals. Next, please. We've also had a study using a survey to look at consumer behaviors of food waste in Thailand. And we found out that about 35% throw all of their food waste away without doing anything. And about 45 utilize some parts of the food waste. And 20% always utilize the food waste. And the most popular method of utilizing food waste is composting. And when we ask about prevention, the most popular behavior prevention is a cooking suitable amount. But we found that there still needs to be more increased planning, storage, preservation, donation, and utilization. And we found out that consumers also lack the knowledge how to prevent, reduce, and utilize the food waste, as well as knowledge about food surplus management. Next, please. Different plans and policies related to food waste include our Sustainable Consumption and Production Plan. There's also a Greenhouse Gas Reduction Action Plan for municipal solid waste sector. Also, we have the National Food Management Action Plan, and as I've mentioned before, our Biocircular Green Economic Model, or our BCG strategy plan. Next, please. We also have a National Food Committee, which has a food waste reduction subcommittee, which is enacted to coordinate and handle our food waste management. Next, please. So that comes to our drafting of food waste management roadmap for Thailand. We have determined that the scope includes 3 target groups, including the food retail, which are the markets, department stores, supermarkets, convenience stores. The food service providers includes the hotels, restaurants, food courts, canteens, hospitals, prisons, and sporting events. And the consumers are the households and different religious places. And we follow the principle of food recovery hierarchy. where we try to reduce as much as possible, and then we feed people and then animals, and then we utilize it and then compost and then dispose of it as least as possible. Okay, next, please. So our draft, we have well, the target, as I mentioned before, is to reduce from 146 kilograms per capita per year to down to 73 by 2030. And we have determined about 10 submeasures. The first main measure one, is food waste prevention and management reduction, where it includes food waste prevention and reduction implementation in all the different sectors. And we're also looking at the public-private networking, as mentioned by the previous presenter already. So we're very interested in something similar. We need to include awareness raising and changing consumer behavior. Tradition and behaviors and norms and values are something that are quite difficult to change, but we're trying to look at different methods and different ways to change and improve that. Food surplus management, we've mentioned about SOS already, so we need several more foundations and a more systemized way to organize this nationally so that we could have a food surplus throughout the nation, as well as all the different laws and regulations included with that. Second measure is food waste utilization and management. That includes all the different ways the local governmental organizations are, or we can call them municipalities, are handling waste management. So we need to link that on trying to shift away from just disposing to trying to utilize it as much as possible from the source, for example, from the households and communities before the local government collects and dispose it in the landfill. So we're trying to get source segregation, as well as different types of collection methods, and utilizing, for example, maybe municipal composting before disposing the residues, as well as perhaps looking at biogas, or people know it as anaerobic digestions, to produce biogas and produce energy from that. Measure 3 is all the other supporting measures. First of all is data management. Thailand is lacking significant data. The first step that we have already achieved is an updated waste composition. So we need to keep that going, using waste composition annually if possible, or at least years in between them, as well as going further to find out more information in the different target groups. For example, the retail sector, the food service sector, and the consumer sector. We also need knowledge and training. Not only general knowledge, but we need actual in-depth for each different sector and subsectors on how to reduce and utilize food waste. We need research and development. There's a lots of technology available, as well as there's lots more that we need to apply in Thailand, so we need more research and development in that area. Laws and regulations mentioned a little bit before. We need to uh, improve our laws and regulations so that we could um, facilitate the reduction of food waste as well as food sharing, I've mentioned before. The Samaritan law mentioned by our previous presenter is also what we're looking into. Thailand doesn't have that. But at the same time, we are able to donate our food voluntarily at the moment. We don't have any significant issues, and hopefully we don't have any, but we would like to have the laws in place so that many of our donors will be confident and able to donate their surplus food. Incentives also, we need whether financial incentives so that all the different sectors are able to uh, um, build their capacity in reduction and utilization of food waste, as well as food sharing. For example, we are also looking at perhaps tax reduction or tax incentives for people who do donate their food surplus. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, maybe, oh yeah, okay, we're more or less at the end of the presentation. Just an overall wrap of that. Our roadmap is we're looking towards reducing half is from 146 kilograms per capita per year to 73. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As a as a Thai citizen, I know my target now for to reduce the food waste to like 73 per capita per year. So those may be the target for citizen like me. I think these two presenters all shows that have government has a policy in place and have action in place in order to address this food loss, food waste. And I think most of the discussion is regarding food waste, but as there's still not much of the questions or comment, I think that we will go through all the speakers and then we can have some common question and address, and then we can come to the Q&A and sharing session between speakers and participants. So we have another distinguished speakers from Department of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperatives, Mr. Chawalert Trikarana Sawat. He's a senior agricultural research specialist, and he will share with us regarding food loss, food waste action from agricultural sector. คุณชาวเลิศ if you ready you can share the presentation
ได้ยินไหมครับ
and the floor is yours
ได้ยินไหมครับ
ได้ยินค่ะได้ยิน
ครับ
ค่ะ
โอเคขอบคุณครับ
yes we can hear you clearly ค่ะเข้าใจ you can share your presentation you open คุณชาวเลิศคุณชาวเลิศ
โอเคไหมครับ
เห็นแล้วค่ะ
โอเค
it's
Yeah,
ready please the
Okay,
floor is
thank you
yours
very much. So I'm glad to be here as a representative of DOA to share the study on food loss reduction in Thailand. And the title is the reduction of post-harvest loss and mycotoxin contamination of chili in Thailand. Oh,
ค่ะ. Can you share your slide again, please?
Yes, share again.
Yes.
Okay.
We lost the presentation. Yes, it's on
Okay,
now. Yes.
my talk will be in three parts. And the first one is introduction. So I'd like to give an overview about the food loss in Thailand. And the second part is national action on food loss reduction. And the last part is a case study on food loss reduction. So Thailand has a large planting area for agriculture, and approximately 46.5% are land used for the agricultural purpose. Of course, the loss in we also facing to the problem on the food loss in the supply chain, and loss in agricultural produce can be found throughout the supply chain from harvesting to the processing. And the table shown that percent of the loss in supply chain during 20 to 50, depend on the sort of the commodity. Food loss is the crucial problem in Thailand and could lead affecting to the entire world. The issue needs to be paid more attention, especially in the agricultural sector. So we have to find the solution practically and efficiently to reduce food loss along the production and supply chain in order to achieve the target of SDG 12.3.1. But in the past few years, research data on food loss in agricultural produce and other commodities along the supply chain in Thailand were limited because there was no the explicit guideline and practice. Now we going to the second part of the presentation. For the national action on food loss reduction, the government has assigned the Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperative to be in charge of the overseeing this important issue. And the diagram show that the organization who involving in the food loss reduction activity in Thailand. The National Food Committee has designed the Food Security Steering Committee and sub committee has on food loss reduction, and with various departments, also including the Agricultural Research Development Agency or ADA, as a focal organization to study on food loss and allocate of a budget to drive research that will be enable Thailand to achieve food loss reduction in Thailand. So we have the project on food loss assessment of agri-food products for the national baseline. So that this project is progressed since 2020 under ADA support. So the 11 agricultural and food target products were selected because they have the high losses and also being economic agricultural commodities, which were among bean, banana, longan, mangoes, chili, lettuce, palm oil, chicken, beef, egg, white shrimp, and sugarcane. And this is the work plan on this research. to achieve the food loss index. At the beginning is the understanding the value chain in terms of critical loss point and loss factor. The next is to create the sampling plan and collect data for food loss measurement. After that, we will concentrate implementation of the research, finding the national food loss baseline, national food loss index, and global food loss index. And finally, the policy on food loss reduction will be established at the national level and drafting a Thailand roadmap to reduce food loss in supply chain in 2023 and start up the project driven food loss reduction in supply chain in 2024. So now we are getting to the third part. The case study on food loss reduction. This project, the reduction of post-harvest loss and mycotoxin contamination of chili in Thailand. This project conducted during 2017 to 2019 and supported by the AFASI from Korea. Okay, the chili is the important vegetable of Thailand, and they produce the production area are 33,000 hectares approximately. The majorly in the north and the northeastern of Thailand. The loss of chili can be found throughout the supply chain from grower to exporter. And the loss is was evaluated. The result revealed that the critical point is lost during the transportation. So we have done the experiment on the packaging. In Thailand, the most common packaging material for chili is the polyethylene plastic bag with small hole. And each bag can contain 10 kilograms of chili. And the loss is the chili lost by the deterioration, but due to the heat accumulation in the interior of the package. And this slide shows the experimental study. There's 3 different packaging material are polyethylene bag, microperforated oriented polyethylene bag, and airy plastic wrap lined with the green paper were used in the study. And the total post-harvest losses was evaluated, and we found the result revealed that the chili packed in the plastic wrap was 24% lower than the chili packed in the PP bag. For the dry chili, the left picture show the proper drying method for the chili, but sometimes we can see the chili were dry on the ground in the right picture. That causes the fungal and mycotoxin contamination. The contamination of mycotoxin was reported in dry chili, both supply in Thailand and export to various destinations. So we compare the proper drying method for chili by using door, sun drying, hot air oven at 60 degrees Celsius, and solar drying house. And the result revealed that solar drying house is the most popular method with the lower aflatoxin contamination. And this slide showing the comparing for the proper packaging for dried chili by using polypropylene bag, LLDPE bag, and aluminum foil bag. And the result indicated that the aluminum foil bag is the most proper packaging with maintain bright red color and good barrier for moisture. So now we have three solutions for the chili. And these three of the solution will be being suggested to the farmer by turning and it is area plastic craft lined with paper, solar drying house, and aluminum foil bag for dry chili. And new design apron for collecting chili and post-harvest handling manual for fresh chili were distributed to the farmer also. And there were two training courses held on 2018 and 2019 at Phon Pang District, Ubon Ratchathani Province. And now we are getting to the last slide. This slide showing the follow-up 1 year after training the farmer. The farmer can produce dry chili by using solar house with the new designed packaging. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kun Chavalerth. These three speakers show us the food loss and food waste. One thing case study in Thailand is that we have some policy and some structure at the national to have a Draksan plan. Maybe the food waste under Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment moving quite a little bit progress because now they have roadmap and they have the target. And for the food loss, which is under the production, we still measure and will establish a national baseline in order to select some of the good practices, which is come from researcher from Department of Agriculture as a case study that for the post-harvest technology is the key to the loss and maintain a quality and the safety of the product to deliver further to the consumer. Participants, you are feel free to put in the chat the questions and the comments. If it's none for now, I will move on to the next speaker. Thank you very much, Kun Chavalerth. The next presentation or the next speaker, we have the honor from Ms. Ching Cheng Chang. She is a research fellow in the Institute of Economics in Academic Srinagar and a professor of agricultural economics in National Taiwan University. She holds PhD in agricultural economics from Pennsylvania State University. Her main research interests include assessing the economic impact of the trade policy. She also participates in several APEC projects on food security, including strengthening the APEC Food Emergency Response Mechanism, innovation for women and economic development, facilitating women's livelihood development and resilience with ICT, and strengthening public-private partnership to reduce food losses in the supply chain. I think this is a good time that she from Taiwan Economics to share the thought and how we address the food loss in the supply chain. If you are ready, Ms. Chang, you can share your presentation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Vanida. Can you hear me well?
Yes, very well, very well.
Let me share my slides. Okay.
Please. And thank you for being with us.
Okay, so you can see my slides now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very happy to share my experience on reducing food loss and waste along the food supply chain in APEC. I think I've been working with many stakeholders from both the public and private sectors in many APEC member economy. I saw Dr. Jean Buzby today, and she used to be our invited expert to guide us how we can do a food loss and waste measurement, and also provide many policy guidance. So here is the outline of my presentation today. As we know that APEC's economy account for approximately 40% of world population and 50% of our world trade and 60% of our global GDP. So APEC is the forum to engage our regional partners on the food security related issue and trade and investment in the region. So today, in my presentation, I will start with some background on the food security related issue on reducing food loss and waste. And then I will introduce our actions and the progress on linking the food loss and waste reduction with both our food security goal and also the global sustainable development goal. And then in the final part, I will focus on how we can move forward from linear economy to circular economy by introducing a single way of reducing food loss and waste involving a bioconversion by insects, using insects to convert the food waste into protein feed for the livestock and aquaculture sectors. I will present the food waste, how we can use the food waste as an input in the production of insects, and which has recently received many attention, and it can be alternative feed materials that could reduce the environmental and the carbon footprint for the livestock production, especially methane, and therefore can contribute to our circular economy. So I will start with the introduction that we basically, according to the UN FAO's report in year 2011, which is more than 10 years ago, that around 1/3 of our total amount of food production end up being wasted or lost in our food system. This is a very serious global ethical issue, and today it also becomes a global environmental problem and the focus of many international campaigns. For example, the UN have included a target 12.3 as shown in the screen, that this target SDG 12.3 is to reduce 50% of our per capita food waste and the loss by 2030 globally. And also there's a target of 12.5, highlight the importance of reducing waste generation through prevention, reduction, and recycling reuse. Moreover, APEC member economy has considered reducing food loss and waste no regret options, because APEC economy have discovered that fully managed food waste and loss will contaminate our oceans and bring diseases and litter our landscapes, and most importantly, release harmful greenhouse gases like methane, causing harms to human life, human health, and our economies. And according to the IPCC 5 reports, the global food loss and waste emission accounted for about 8% of our total anthropogenic greenhouse gas emission. And tackling this food loss and waste issue, we consider that it can generate a triple win, which include not only feed more, reducing food loss and waste can allow us to feed more hungry people. It also can save money for farmers, food processors, food services provider, and households, while small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, can realize business opportunity and benefit from the process. And the third win is this reduction can alleviate the pressure on our planet from climate, and as well as the pressure on the water and land use. Okay, so here is the overview of our APEC's multi-year project that we wish to reduce food loss and waste in the supply chain by strengthening our public-private partnership. In this project, that we adopt a 3-pillar approach. The first pillar is to do a food loss and waste assessment. And the second pillar is build toolkits and best practices sharing in the, especially in the public-private partnership. And the third pillar is the capacity building and expert consultation and seminars that to share our experience and best practices. So every year we conduct methodology and also seek practical experience in different sectors from like in year 2013, we start with the cereal and vegetable food crops, fruit crops. And in year 2015, we address the problem and issues in fishery and livestock sector. And in year 2016, we work on the food waste in the retail and the consumer household sectors. And then the final year, 2017, we work on the public policy and also the partnership of private public sector, that how we can address the issue with no regret solutions. And in year 2021, APEC member economies, that's last year, we adopted the food security roadmap toward 2030. And Thailand is the host economy of APEC 2022 this year, and have been working with us to deliver the implementation plan, which will become an important outcome of the ministerial meeting on food security coming soon. In this implementation plan, Chinese Taipei is the leading economy for key action area 17E, which is provide capacity building and best practice sharing workshop to support member economies' individual and collective effort to adopt and align with the UN SDG 12.3. And with specific indicator based on each economy's respective situation and as measured by the UN FAO Food Waste Index and Food Loss Index, which has been also addressed in our previous speaker's presentation. And so in this implementation plan, Chinese Taipei has already laid out the work action plan as follows. In year 2022, this year, we will publish a project report on sustainable material management of food in the APEC region. And also we will review the public policy and have a workshop hosted by the US on the farmer producer perspective on food waste reduction. And next year, 2023, we plan to conduct survey and also have a workshop on the enhancing digital and innovative technologies on reducing food loss and waste. In 2024, the year after, we will review progress on the infrastructure investment and also cold chain technologies. And also we will try to conduct best practice sharing to support and harmonizing all these activities. In year 2025, we will again review the progress on the measurement and data collection, and also host a seminar to enhance our measurement and data collection, which is has been highlighted as one of the very instrumental part of our action plan. And then to evaluate our progress, this measurement and food loss and waste index are very important. So here we will evaluate the progress in this area and also how specific indicators are developed based on each economy's situation. Okay, now let me move to the next part, that is our current activities. At the end, what ultimately matters is our action, and also tackling this problem calls for a mix of factors and actions like awareness campaign and collaboration throughout the global food supply chain, and also infrastructure investment and equipment and also adapting of innovative technologies. So today, many food supply chain efficiency effort has been made. So since year 2013, we started this project that we have incorporated how to improve our logistic and also productivity along the food supply chain to improve our food security. And so most of the action focus on the enhancing productivity and efficiency and improve logistics. For example, the digital supply chain tools are developed to track our supply and demand data to prevent overproduction. And also other tools can create dynamic pricing schemes or mechanism to quickly move the products through the supply chain before they expire. So like China have conducted a study on the food security and food safety by reducing mycotoxin in grain product. And also Chinese Taipei complete a study on the food loss and waste, as I mentioned earlier, in different food categories and also at different stage of the food supply chain. And in year 2017, the U.S. Also strengthened the relationship between food security and climate change and nexus, and also by incorporating the reducing food loss and waste actions. And also the year 2019, Japan has led the has hosted a workshop on reducing food waste by using these ICT and innovative technologies. And last year, Chinese Taipei also conducted a survey and also host a workshop on reducing food loss and waste because of the disruptions in the food supply chain during the COVID-19 pandemic has caused many concern on the food loss and waste, and also on the efficiency of our food supply chain. And okay, so this year there will be a new project led by the U.S. on reducing food waste from the farmer and producer perspective. As I mentioned, that we found that we have also already conducted several surveys to try to find the feasible solutions to tackle this problem, and we found that many economy has adopted capacity building and educational campaign. So there are more than 20 no-regret solutions in the APEC region, and that also we found that collaboration among stakeholders and all parties from public and private sector, from production to consumer sector is the key. This can improve the supply and demand forecasting to match the consumer needs without overproduction, and also the waste can be reduced. And also we can increase the efficiency of our food system. And the business working to reduce the food waste are also found to see their costs coming down due to greater supply chain efficiency. And as also on the public-private partnership, I think we have also identified that, for example, what type of PPP has been applied, and in the most popular type is the public financial support, and also what area of food loss and waste reduction PPP focus on, that is the reduction campaign and food waste recycling are very have gained many interest and also attention. And also developing economy, I strongly recommend that the agricultural facility and cold chain improvement are needed. And also the many developing economy find out that the PPP have covered not only to enhance the agriculture investment in this area, but also the enhancement on the food waste recycling are also very important in the PPP. So more information sharing can be found in our website. Here I show it on the screen, that we provide all the information in this information platform for capacity building and dissemination and education campaign. So you can find more details there. So I won't go through everything here to save time. And now I want to move to the case study in Chinese Taipei to that how we can use the insect to build the circular economy model. And I think here I I will start with the right-hand side of this slides that this is the food recovery hierarchy. It reminds us that to address the food loss and waste with a circular mindset, the preferred outcome is to reduce the volume of surplus food from the beginning, or to reuse it to feed the hungry people or feed the animals. The least preferred and the bottom of the hierarchy is the sending the waste to landfills. So to fight the food waste through this circular economy, the key is that every food system, the value chain should work together in finding ways to keep food from going to landfills. The main reason why insects are an interesting target of bio-based conversion technology is that they are able to connect the agricultural supply chain and improve the circularity of the bio economy. In the APEC region, I think I mentioned that small and SMEs, small and mid-sized business are among the most critical catalysts for the widespread changes of our food system from production to consumption. So SME can be found across the also the global food supply chain. And in the future, in our future APEC action plan, we try to promote a number of initiatives and best practices for the SMEs to adopt and to cut down how much food is wasted and actually to improve their efficiency and their own bottom lines. So SME can also improve not only their own bottom line, but also awareness among consumers by introducing and promote the promotion that highlight the importance of waste reduction. So this is another triple win that I would like to highlight in our case. Research show that the new revenues stream can be found by transforming food waste and byproducts into new products. For example, those biorefining technologies and some blue economy strategies that we hear this morning. And also some companies are repurposing leftover food into animal feed and converting oil waste into the biodiesel fuel. The use of food waste as an input in production of insects has received the attention. I think I would like to mention that in year 2020, 2 years ago, the European Commission has mentioned that in their farm to fork strategy, that insects is an alternative feed material that could reduce the environmental and climate footprint and contributing to the European circular economy. So today in my case study, I present an insect-based BCG technology and circular economy to design, which is designed specifically for the SMEs. Earlier in our Chinese Taipei's actions, that we highlight the linear economy, like for our homeowner foundation, that we promote education and policy, and also to some practices. These are linear economy, and also from farm to fork. But we will now trying to move to the circular economy following Europeans' strategies, and also the circular economies, and also our food recovery hierarchies recommendation. I think there are several types of insects that can be used in this circular economy case to convert food waste into the animal feed. There are like mealworms or crickets or black soldier flies. And the business case in Chinese Taipei is based on the information provided by the Yunnan Biological Agriculture Company. They use the black soldier fly as the insect to divert food loss and waste into fertilizer and also the feed. Due to many unique biological characteristics of black soldier flies. Black soldier fly is not a pest, or it's also not a disease vector. Its larvae are very robust against diseases. A fully grown larva produces a biomass that contains 40 to 45% protein with an advantageous amino acid composition, and also 35% fat can be found in the dry matters. So it is an interesting source of feed because of their ability to convert many types of organic materials into protein and fat, including the residue from agricultural products such as fruits and vegetables that currently go into waste, and also the kitchen food waste that goes to landfills or incinerators, causing environmental hazard and also greenhouse gas emissions. The byproduct insect oil can also be to be used as oil crop-based biofuels in the circular economy. From the business perspective, the advantage and value added of this Yunnan company is to use these black soldier flies for the small medium economy SMEs. I summarize this value added into the following points. The first is that this operation has a fast conversion value added. That it takes only 2 to 3 days to complete one treatment cycles. And the second advantage is the flexible configurations using a container as the adaptable which is adaptable to any local conditions. There's no pre-processing equipment and no need to build a big factory, and also it's labor saving because all the automatic control is within this container. This container actually is converted from a air-conditioned container that's a second-hand. So it's actually also a recycling use of second-hand container. And I didn't list other advantage like reducing the transportation costs because it's very easy, can be transported through a truck, and also for many local and also remote areas, and also increase the space utilization for many small farm or SMEs, small business, and also for the landlocked economies. So these are the value added points that I would like to highlight in this case. And if you're interested, you can also use the, they have a website. Here's their website that you can also look into more photos or demos that that which is a business case, that also a business module currently already available to farmers and also the distributor, logistics sector, and also the small business, and also they already have some contract with the local environmental agencies to reduce food loss and waste in a very cost-efficient and energy-saving technologies. So, so they can contribute to the environment and also small business and also the community as a whole. And this is the triple wins for cases used in the circular economy sense. But there are some limitations for exploring this kind of new technology because insect production is still subject to some general regulation that applies to producers in the livestock sectors, which means that with a few exceptions, insect can only be fed with vegetable products. So the same rule can also prohibit the use of insect-based proteins in the feed to feed other than for the aquaculture sector, which is constraining the long-term growth potential of this industry. In fact, Chinese Taipei is currently exploring whether the feed ban rules can be safely relaxed for this insect-based protein to be used for the poultry industry. And that brings to my final point that future research is needed to investigate the market potential and the impact of converting the food waste into insect-based protein meal. It is also important to investigate the cost associated with this conversion. And moreover, we also need to perform a life cycle analysis so to account for the changes in greenhouse gas emissions associated with the changes in the feed and biofuel prices in our future research. With that, I would like to thank our chair, Dr. Vanida, and also the organizing committee and also the participants to join me today. I would like to thank you for listening. And I think Thailand is the lead economy for the food security roadmap. I wish you a continued progress in integrating the BCG technology and concept into our work to enhance our food security in the region. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chan.
My presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's quite a very detailed and in-depth information. And I have to, this morning, for the Sustainable Blue Economy, APEC start in 2014, but food loss, food waste, APEC start in 13. So maybe similar time that APEC economies really address these two leading issues, which is will support the sustainable food system. As we heard that Taipei do a lot, and then there's quite, and especially the platform that people can access and learn how the APEC work on the food loss and food waste. We have the last speakers before we receive the Q&A and the last round from all the speakers. The last one, we have the honor to get Ms. Benjamin. I'm not quite sure I pronounce your last name properly. Lefilibert is the founder of managing director of Light Blue, a UN award social enterprise working on food waste prevention across Asia and Europe with the hotel groups, with international organization, and with his experience in consulting in the big business and the Chamber of Commerce, also participates in the solution designer and the certificate trainer for Global Sustainable Tourism Council. We looking forward of your experience in consulting, and then how you can consult the food loss, food waste for a sustainable food system in the APEC region. If you are ready, you are with us, you can share your presentation.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
clearly.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a real pleasure. There is quite a few people already know from the APEC level and also in Thailand. So thank you very much for help for letting me sharing a bit of our experience. So let me try to get my screen right, and let me know if the slides are displaying correctly. Does it work?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. So yes, the topic of food waste is something I've been working very closely on since basically I started in the hotel group. Accor, I was implementing an environmental certification system for the network of Novotels in 9 countries in Asia. That was in 2008, and then I moved on to consult for the UN ILO on greening the hotel industry, and with the EU in consulting the Ministry of Tourism on designing the green hotel certification system. And very quickly, well, we were covering, I was covering different areas such as energy, water, waste, chemicals, staff awareness, guest engagement, local community, etc. But very quickly realized that there was a big gap in terms of covering the topic of food waste. I was walking around, I was realizing that there was basically, I was seeing bins that was full of food, and I wouldn't understand. So I started to ask questions, because initially I'm not from the culinary sector, and I haven't been working directly in kitchens. And I was asking professionals, so how many kilos are going to that bin, and what is it, and where is it coming from, and why, and how much does it cost you? And those questions were left unanswered, and that really puzzled me. And then it really, well, it pushed me into that field, and realizing that there was nothing. It was a non-topic. There was at the time 2012, there was no studies. We were very far from where we are now. I think we are it's a still nascent sort of discipline, but we came a long way. But 10 years ago, people were just not talking about it. So no benchmarking, no studies, no realization of the impact of food waste, specifically on the business side. So since then, we worked our way through. We've been working on roughly 45 projects over the past 10 years in about 15 countries. With, as was presented, with hotels, hotel groups, restaurants. We work more and more recently on larger projects with development agencies. I will share some of the case studies, and with the higher education, based on all the knowledge we have been accumulating over the past 10 years, that we are basically confronting or helping to complement existing studies, and we have designed notably a masterclass on food waste prevention, and I will share a bit about that without going too much into details. So what I would like to look at today, really, it's a focus on the food service sector: hotels, restaurants, canteens being canteens of schools or corporate canteens. As this has been covered, our focus is clearly on the preventive side. So meaning that we will be designing, fine-tuning, and exploring further ways to prevent food waste. And then we'll be looking at how, once the minimization has been implemented, once we have explored all the ways to minimize food waste as much as possible, then who are the other players that our partners or our customers can turn to either feed people, feed animal, or transform, with the end goal being trying to push the industry towards zero food waste to landfill. And I personally, I was discussing this with some corporate offices of large international hotel chains. I think if this could be achieved, that would be already a major step forward for the entire industry. If they were setting this target of making their hotel zero food waste to landfill. So first, before diving into what are some of the solutions and some illustration of those solutions in the context of projects, I would like to share some of our learnings, especially in the hospitality sector. What we see is that there is between 25 to 42% of all food purchased by hotels that end up in the bin, which is a massive portion of what they buy. Very interestingly, we realize that there is roughly 3% of all food service players that actually monitor food waste. And that's a major challenge, because if they are not monitoring, then they are completely misunderstanding or completely underestimating the volume of food waste, because there is what we call this perception gap. So they would think that they're actually doing a pretty good job, when actually there is 3 to 8 times more in volume that would end up in the bin compared to what they think. It's a natural bias, I would say, by any professional, because the food waste is perceived as a deficiency. And the last point is about the cost of food waste, and this is something that especially recently we spent a lot of effort on, is to be able to put a price tag on the topic of food waste, because this, for us, evolving predominantly in the private sector and dealing mainly with private sector organizations, we absolutely need to show what is the return on investment, what are the financial benefits, because I think especially where we are in this region, in Southeast Asia in particular, the pressure from the consumer is not high enough. There is no real legislative push. So there is, I would say, not enough heat for the private players to really move in the right direction, in particular in the hospitality sector, and they're kind of, holding back a bit until the moment where they start realizing what is actually going to the bin. And we are talking about large hotels. We're talking about from several $100,000 up to one point something million dollars a year. So what is interesting is to be able to implement systems to track and monitor food waste in multiple locations, and then being able to calculate very precisely using specific methodology what is the cost of food waste, depending on where it's happening, and then to compare the cost of food waste projected over a year time to what is the projected revenue over a year time, and then to see what percentage of the cost of food waste represent out of the yearly revenue. And we see like massive differences. Some are starting around 3%. So cost of food waste represent 3% of their yearly revenue. That's usually those that can sell very high. So that means they generate a lot of cash. Up to 22%, as we have seen recently, meaning that, well, the equivalent of the cost of food waste is 20%. So that means that a good chunk of what could end up in their wallets actually is lost and going to the bin. So we have developed several types of solutions. I would like to cover them very quickly. First one is our FIT technology, which we call Food Intel Tech, which is designed to measure, monitor food waste at multiple locations at a very affordable price. So I don't know if the video will play. I haven't tested. I will try very quickly. You just tell me if you hear the sound or not. If not, I will skip it and explain how it works. Does it work?
No, we don't hear it.
Okay, I will explain it then better. Thank you. So this technology is basically, so as it said, is designed to track and reduce food waste and associated costs at multiple locations. What is interesting is that, from my point of view, is that we built a technology that is not running on our proprietary hardware, but instead running on low cost generic devices. So for instance, my phone right here, that is Android, can run the app to be installed on usually tablets or even telephones. We recommend tablet, and those tablets are being used as data entry points. So those data entry points are located in each of the strategic kitchens that want to be covered. And the information that are collected are the key information related to the performance of their kitchen. So this information are how much, when, where, what, and why is food waste happening. So multiple recording points would help to have a much broader understanding about the situation, I would say, and will provide information related to those 5 key questions. All the information collected are centralized in an online software that provides, well, of course, a comprehensive dashboard, but also an in-depth analysis, and you can go into the analytics and decide which part of your operation you want to look at, which time frame, and which issue do you want to look at per shift. Let's say breakfast versus lunch or dinner. Do you want to look at it in terms of why is food wasted based on the category, so spoilage, preparation, buffet, or plate? And using those different filters, then you can easily see where, when, why is this issue happening in your kitchen. So this technology received a Solar Impulse Efficient Solution Award recently, which we're very happy about. But anyway, each of the kitchens receive on a weekly basis a report that will give an idea of the how well are the operation going compared to first their initial baseline. So their initial baseline, we would set the baseline of new users out of the first 7 or 14 days, depending on how good is the quality of the data that is being recorded. So once they have this baseline, usually our key indicator for us is the food waste per cover. So food waste per person eating in the restaurant that where the solution is implemented. And this baseline is being used on a day-to-day basis to see how well they are doing in food waste per cover compared to the baseline. And then we'll track the variation in terms of food waste per cover, but also daily quantity in kilos. And we will see then also how well they're doing for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or spoilage, preparation, buffet, or plate, as well as what is going to the bin and the variation. So why is it interesting? Of course, this is for, well, saving on costs, obviously. It's quite interesting for the reason I mentioned with generic devices and being able to cover multiple locations, because some of the limitation that we see with different type of solutions is the cost of the technology, which limits the scope of the operation that can be covered by the technology. So affordable technology means that you can cover much more larger scope of your operation and then get a clear picture of what is really happening. And a key component is that now, well, there are other languages, but it's currently available in 7 different languages, including a few of those languages that are actually from the region. I would like to illustrate my point with this recent project that we run with Hyatt, so Hyatt Asia Pacific. So we had 8 different hotels in 5 different countries in the region, and we basically cluster the whole project into technical training. So everything was delivered digitally, so remotely based in from our office. And those 8 chefs with their team joined us on a journey which included extensive capacity building on why food waste and then how to implement food waste in the kitchens, then how to use the technology, how to read data and interpret them, using the FIT technology in 3 different recording points. And then we had 3 touch points along the way, which were focusing on best practices and recommendations. So we have some food waste hacks. Then we looked at the finance aspect, so how to calculate the cost of food waste and the 3 different ways to calculate savings. And the last part, which was how to make how to future-proof your operation and move beyond the end of that specific project, and including how do you build to get the operation to continue monitoring food waste and move beyond and reach the certification, the pledge on food waste. So as I mentioned, what is interesting is that we have now the app in 5 different languages in this region, from Korean, Mandarin, we don't have a Chinese, sorry, for Korean, Mandarin, Bahasa, Thai, English, French, and Spanish. So as I mentioned, one of the other technologies that's really like the food waste monitoring technology, one of the other technology is actually a methodology, because I personally don't believe that technology in itself is going to save us all. I think that, and I'm speaking in particular in the context of the hospitality sector, and that there is a need not only to monitor, but also to take people by the hand, and I'm talking professional, to bring them into what are the right steps and the right condition in order to have an efficient operation that is minimizing food waste as much as possible while saving on cost, and also like attributing clear roles and responsibilities and guidance on how to adapt the procedures at different levels of the operation. So we co-designed the Pledge on Food Waste, which is third-party certification and benchmarking system that's designed to reduce food waste and save on cost. But importantly, and that's something that our partners really enjoyed, is also to help to nurture the ecosystem of food waste solution providers. There are 95 criteria, 7 key pillars. As you can see, those 7 key pillars will cover, like, I would say quite similarly to other certification, in the sense like you have the policy, the KPIs, the reporting system, that's the first pillar. Second pillar is really about what sort of training should be delivered to what type of employees, depending on where do they work, from purchasing to receiving to storage to preparation. Then you have food waste monitoring. So to be certified, you need to show that there are there is an ongoing food waste monitoring system that could be as basic as pen and paper, and then put the data on the Excel, or super advanced solutions, or in between, like the solution I presented earlier. Then there are 2 pillars at the bottom that are related to what are the procedures that must be in place, again, from purchasing to receiving to storage to preparation, forecasting, mise en place, that should be there to minimize the risk of wasting food. So it's more a review of procedures that would help to cut as much as possible. And then there is 2 components, customer engagement, which is basically how do you interact with the diners that are coming to your restaurants? How do you influence them to minimize food waste without, crossing them or punishing them? And the last component is really, okay, once you have minimized food waste as much as you can, what can you do? Because you don't go down to zero. What can you do to either, by following the food waste pyramid, the hierarchy, to redistribute? So either for charity or working with solution providers like the app technology that would help to sell the surplus, or can you feed animals, or can you transform it from low tech technology like compost to higher tech like waste to energy, for instance. The idea is, once the restaurant is ready, they get audited by a third-party auditing company, and then they have a score. So if they don't have the minimum requirement, they don't pass. But then there are some criteria that are bonus, and if they get those bonus points, then they would reach from 70 to 79 day bronze. Then the next level is silver, gold, and if they have full compliance, then it's all star. So this solution in itself is something that the private sector is starting to embrace. But interestingly, I would like to share with you, we used a combination of those solutions in the context of partnership with the government sector. And in particular, that was in Mauritius, a project that we completed recently, meaning a couple of months back. Where basically there was 10 pilots, 8 hotels, and 2 corporate canteens that got into this 9 months food waste reduction journey, combining the technology, combining the certification system, combining capacity building, and I would say follow up by accredited consultant on the implementation. What was interesting is that we also got a chance to train 3 local consultants from a food rescue organization to become accredited consultant for the pledge, and getting them ready to accompany customers, in that case, some of the pilots, throughout the certification journey. And the results actually were just like excellent. We were super happy. On average, there was 43% reduction in food waste per cover, 62,000 kilos of food that were not wasted, 96 people that were trained, more than $200,000 in savings accumulated, and 160,000 kilos of carbon emission equivalents that didn't happen. And all of this is based on 16,000 more data entry points that was used throughout the implementation process. So it's really data-driven sort of results and project implementation. If some of you are interested, those are the partnerships that we are developing with the government agencies. I'm linking here the link to the report that can be downloaded to look at the methodology. Everything is explained out there, and I hope that this could be something of interest. And to conclude, and not to take too much time, the last component is basically one of the aspects that was put forward, including by Dr. Emily previously, and that's also one of the most promising way to address food waste is through capacity building. And what happened is during COVID, we got hit by like the entire industry, as most of our partners were actually hit badly by COVID. So we worked on building our own masterclass on food waste prevention, composed of 5 different modules that has been actually delivered to not only professional from the industry, but a lot of the participants were actually academics. So we work, for instance, with the 16 lecturers from Republic Polytechnic Singapore. We work with government officials. We work with lecturers and other researchers. And this masterclass now has been put online and is currently being translated with subtitles in different languages. So this is a self-paced capacity building platform that helps the participant to get a very solid foundation about the issue of food waste, looking from first the big picture, then zooming in into the food supply chain, the inefficiencies, and the new innovative circular economy models, such as the one that were presented earlier, either at the food loss level or further down the food supply chain. Then we'll go and dive deep into commercial kitchens to look at how to implement food waste monitoring system, what sort of data can be exploited. And then we'll be looking at the finance during the module 4, KPIs, finance and metrics, and finishing with innovation solutions to reach zero food waste to landfills. And this is all very intuitive and online, and something that we just completed another collaboration with Culinary School. And I hope that for those of you that are interested in maybe starting with aligning understanding by maybe your department, being at a university or within your ministry, that you would consider this, which is not the miracle solution, but I think a very good, from the feedback that we get, a very good way to step up in terms of understanding of the big picture on that issue before being able to target more specific part of that problem. So that's about it. Different type of solutions. I don't think that one size fits all and that one type of solutions can fix such a complex issue. So that's why we have from technology to methodology and capacity building. And I hope that we'll be able to further extend our collaboration with other private and government sector players.
Thank you very much. That's quite very insightful, and I think it's in action. I think it's today the session we see from the policy from the top, and then cascade down how we're going to deal with it. And at the end, the last one, the light blue show, it can make a business case. And the way that the private sector and business attack these food loss and waste, there's a different way. And this is kind of action in place, solution in place. It's a matter how to access, how to be fit in, because you mentioned not one size fits all. So which one is appropriate for each context, and with the affordable, reliable, and it can be accountable. I don't see much of the question, but maybe we take up 2 questions. Okay, there are 2 questions. The first one is to light blue about the hotel. Once they can monitor what did they use with that waste, or just monitor to reduce the waste. That's the first question. And how does the science technology contribute to reduce food loss in smallholders with the farmer needs? So there's 2 questions. Maybe I will give, because with the time, maybe you can address it in 2 to 3 minutes, and then we can have the round of the whole speakers. So maybe for the light blue, once the hotel identify that waste, what do? They do at the same hierarchy that they already have. Yes, and then
Yes.
I will go around
Yes.
with the speaker. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. No, that's a good question, and I think that's this slide in particular summarize it pretty well. Our clear focus is on the preventive side. Usually, where we operate, there is already some sort of an ecosystem of solution providers. Some that have been here like for super long, like in Bangkok, where the large hotel usually would work already with pig farmers that would come and collect. As we know, it doesn't entirely tackle the issue. It doesn't help to prevent and reduce the environmental and financial costs related to food waste, but it's better than sending it to the landfill. It's not common practice from all over the place, but we are helping to connect with the right players depending on where we work, being food rescue organizations, those farmers that would collect to feed animals, or when existing some service providers that would collect to transform organic waste.
Okay, thank you. So I think that when there's some solution, so you have options for individuals to select according to their capacity and their availability. So and I think I will go around with the speakers. How can this food loss can be implemented with the small farmer or actually farmers? We heard a lot of the food waste in the consumer side. What about the food loss for the farmer? Is there any speaker would like to respond to that, or I can go around maybe with Dr. Jean Buzby?
Hi, just some of the innovations that come out of USDA funding have helped farmers and small farmers, such as small portable dryers for, that's just one example. And other kinds of technologies can help the small farmers as well. And we have a foreign agriculture service that will help take those technologies from the United States and share information, and also have some tests and pilot projects in other countries.
Okay. So I think that one is how we can share experience, and then and how what I listened. So maybe the food loss and post harvest technology may be interrelated, and how we can connect it to make it more tangible, because post technology, post harvest technology is the solution, but for the food loss and waste, I think we need to measure it. How to measure this is the loss, this is the waste, and how to monitor it, and then track the progress. I think those one maybe we translate what we used to accustomed to in agriculture as a post-harvest technology, and drive it to the food loss and waste. Okay, and other speakers, you have the floor. You can turn on your mic, or I can get you. Miss Anuda?
Thank you. I think I can share some of the examples of linkages between the private sector and farmers. I think I've mentioned briefly some of the implementation by supermarkets, where they actually work with farmers to manage the seasonal plan. Because the supermarkets, they have data showing when which month do customers prefer buying which kind of vegetables or fruits, depending on the actual season, or the actual events, the calendar events during the year, where they prefer certain types of produce. So they work with the farmers to plan ahead of time so that they can reduce the types of crops or increase the types of preferred crops so that it would coincide with the actual timing of when the customers need those produce. Also, some examples from the hotel side. I think in the questions, there's some thing about recycling breakfast buffet to lunch or dinner. There's also some examples that, for example, some hotels, they have oyster bars. So they have lots of oyster shells. And they're able to work with their egg farmers so that they can, and chicken farmers, so they can give the oysters and they pulverize it into powder and give it to the chickens as a source of calcium. And those chickens are actually organic farms and can provide the eggs back to the hotels. That's one example. And we don't usually look at, we don't think of oyster shells as being food waste, but actually is part of food. So, and if you measure food waste by weight, that is a significant amount as well. And that's just one example of working directly between private sector and farmers. Thank you.
That's a good example. Mr. Chavalet, is there any response? Yes.
So in the part of the post-harvest, in terms of the food loss, we have the border after harvesting to the loss before getting to the retail market. So we can measure the loss between the two process, and we can we can put the technology in each step to reduce the loss because of the depending on the type, the sort of the commodity. In the community crops, I mean the plant the produced from the horticultural crops or that the process between the harvest to the processing in the farmer, they only harvest from the field. After that, the responsibility is go to the collector. So the farmer just have to do the harvesting well, but for the loss, to reduce the loss after that, there are another contributor to take care. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe we was the last speaker, Dr. Chang. Is there any 2 minutes response? Sorry.
My example would be like we have because the COVID pandemic that causing a lot of disruption. So we're now promoting a lot of digital technology and Uber sharing economy type of business model in the rural for small farm to share all the investment in the machinery, those automatic machine to help them to have to speed up the collecting and also harvesting, post-harvesting processing. Yeah, so these are some new technologies. Yeah, but it has to be a business model that can save the cost for small farm and also to help the small business in the rural economy. Yeah, so that's the key. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think this session, we really spend the time together very efficiently and very informative. I would like to thank all the speakers, Dr. Jean Buzby from USDA Food Loss and Waste Liaison Office of the Chief Economist, Ms. Anuda Tawatsin, Environmentalist, Pollution Control Department, Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, Mr. Chavaler Tikaruna Sawat, Senior Agricultural Research Specialist from Post-Harvest Technology, Department of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture, Rural and Cooperative, Dr. Ching Cheng Chang, Research Fellow, Academic Seneca, Taipei, and Mr. Benjamin Leffy Liber from Light Blue. It's very enlightening, and I think this one is a thing that if you're in the fields, you really know it. But as the citizen and the people of the country and the APEC economies, how can we do it? We start this session, this dialogue since the beginning, since the morning, to start it. What is it is all about? How we take action towards sustainable food system through the blue economies and the food loss, food waste action. What we see that under APEC economy, we have policy, plan, action at different steps to work together as the economies. And we see that the national have the policy, but maybe the level and the progress is different. And how you approach the issue is under the national context and the capacity and availability of those economies. And with the blue economies, we will find a challenge and opportunity to get the ocean and marine and coastal and as well as below water more sustainable and provide a new product and services to tackle all the threats. And for the food loss, there's the loss and waste. This is it. We have to see the difference. There's a lot of ongoing at the government, even the business sector that even have the business models. And what we see that the collaboration, the coordination, and the partnership is the key that we can take the action forwards. I think for us now is it relevant to us as an individual and citizen? Is it relevant as an institution or as the national or as the people of this planet? I think that will take it to how we elaborate and put it in the Bangkok Goal on BCG, how we put this to BCG model in order to achieve sustainable food system and achieve SDG by 2030. So as the moderator, I end my job now for these two sessions. And thank you all the out there participants that being with us and sharing information. As you listen, that's just more, and then we change. And please come back to us anytime through the email that we contact you, and we can move forward, think it together, and be an APEC economy to be open, connect, and balanced. I thank the NASDAQ facility and meeting facility for providing and helping us to take through all this session, and colleagues from NASDAQ and Bureau of Foreign Agricultural Affairs of two ministry that helping organize. Most of all, thank you, your speakers and all the participants to be together. We don't have the closing remark, but as the dialogue, we meet, but we never say goodbye. See you next time on other event, on the APEC, on other barriers on food loss and waste. Thank you very much, and a greeting at your time. as your local time โอเคสวัสดีค่ะขอบคุณมากค่ะ from Bangkok
สวัสดีครับ thank you very much bye bye